Hey everybody, this is Kurov Milankov, here to bring you a new For Honor historical video. Now, I know this isn't a normal history video that I do, but I wanted to cover something that's been getting at me. As we all should know, For Honor is a game based off of historical warriors, some real and remade, while others are fictional but made from that era and time. However, within the game's growing repertoire of armor, weapons, and other content are real historical and mythological references. So today, I chose 10 things within the game to shed some light on and reveal their origins. Not a top 10, but just 10 that I found interesting and would be interesting to you. With all that said, let's get started. So, starting on our first pick, we have the Warden's Armor variant, Lionheart. This is an epic armor style and can only be acquired from Rep 5 and up. The Lionheart armor variant shares its name with the famous knight by the name of Richard the Lionheart. Born on September 8, 1157, Richard I would become King of England in 1189 after rebelling against his father. He would claim the name Lionheart during his time in the Third Crusade. He would come to fight the legendary Saladin and come to almost reclaim the Holy Land, but he never succeeded in taking Jerusalem. But it's because of his military leadership and strength that he claimed the title of Lionheart. Though he never wore this armor, this is a nice little nod to the famous crusader. Continuing with Warden on our number 2, we have the Caliburn sword variant. This is a legendary weapon style that can only be acquired at Rep 7 and up. The name should sound familiar to you because this is the legendary Sword in the Stone or Sword of the Lady of the Lake, depending on your Arthurian legend preference. Yes, this is Excalibur, but the original title of it. You see, the original story of King Arthur, written by Geoffrey of Monmouth in his Historia Regum Britannia, or the History of the Kings of Britain, calls the sword Caliburn. The name itself is actually a Latinization on a Welsh word called this word right here, meaning roughly hard breach, which could possibly be an old word for just sword. Caliburn, as it's easier to pronounce, is just a sword with no special traits or qualities at all. Until later on, when French poets added and changed plots to the Arthurian narrative and gave the sword cool magical abilities, and the name that we all now know, Excalibur, which is just a Frenchy version of Caliburn. What's interesting about the detail of the sword is that it has a lot of what appears to be dragonfly designs from the hilt to the guard, which is possibly a reference to the Lady of the Lake version of the sword, seeing as which dragonflies are always around areas such as ponds or lakes to breed and survive. A nice little touch, if I may say so. Moving on to number 3, we have Conqueror's Juhel armor variant. This is also a legendary armor style and can only be acquired at Rep 7 and higher. This one is truly interesting as the name likely references Juhel de Tournai, a Norman soldier who fought alongside a famous conqueror, William the Conqueror, to be specific. In 1066, William, before being titled the Conqueror, was William I. He led an army to invade England and quickly seized power from the English king. Alongside him were many knights and soldiers, and a noteworthy one for our purposes was Juhel. Juhel would continue fighting supporters of the old King of England after William's takeover, and for his duties was granted land within England, being given the title of Baron of Tournai and Devon. I thought this was noteworthy, because the association to William the Conqueror to Juhel was a nice touch to name an armor variant for Conqueror. Finishing off with the knights for number 4 is Centurion's Polis Verso Execution. This is an execution that can be bought with 7,000 steel. What is noteworthy about this execution is the name itself, Polis Verso. It's Latin for with a turned thumb or turning of a thumb. This is a reference to the highly debated idea that gladiators, when above a downed opponent, will look towards the crowds or to the emperor and receive the judgment from them. Thumbs up was said to spare their life, while thumbs down was to end it. However, even that is speculated to be wrong, saying that a thumbs down was to let them live, while a thumbs up was to go ahead and kill. But even then, it is not known for certain what the thumb's position actually signified. The ancient writer Juvenal once wrote, "Today, they hold shows of their own, and win applause by slaying whomsoever the crowd with the turn of the thumb bids them slay. Referencing that fact, it wasn't until 1872 that the term was brought up again by a man named Jean-Léon Gérôme, who painted a gladiator standing above a downed opponent, looking at the crowd with their thumbs down. Not only that, the painting had an influence in the production of the 2000 film Gladiator. My only gripe about this execution is that it doesn't go to Gladiator. I mean, yeah, it's cool on scent, but I feel like it belongs to Glad for obvious reasons. But hey, that's just my opinion. Moving on to the land of the ice and snow for our number 5, we have the Vikings Vanguard Raider and his Fenrir weapon variant. This is a legendary weapon variant and can only be acquired at Rep 7 and up. This is personally one of my newest favorite axes of raiders, and with good reason. The name should be well known with anyone who knows anything about Norse mythology. Fenrir, the giant wolf, child of Loki, sibling to Jormungandr, the world serpent, and Hel, the ruler of Helheim. Fenrir was a ferocious wolf who grew and grew to monstrous proportions. It is said that Odin was so fearful of the wolf, for he knew that one day the beast would help bring forth Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Odin would challenge the wolf by restraining him in strong ropes and chains, and said that he would be honored in Asgard for his strength if he were to break them. But in reality, Odin tried to truly bind Fenrir, so he could not move. But binding and after binding, Fenrir would break through them all. It was until Odin asked the dwarves to make him an unbreakable rope to contain the wolf. The dwarves forged Gleipnir, and Odin challenged Fenrir yet again to break from the rope. Fenrir was suspicious and accepted the challenge, only if one of the gods puts their hand in his mouth. No one took up the request. No one except Tyr, the god of war and the only one who ever befriended Fenrir. They placed Gleipnir around Fenrir, and when the wolf couldn't break free, he bit down on Tyr's hand, severing it off. It's said that Fenrir awaits for Ragnarok, where he will be free and is destined to kill Odin. Side note, the shaft has this spiral design on it that could be a reference to Gleipnir that holds Fenrir down, but that's just my speculation. Moving on to the Warlord for number 6, we have his Heimskringla armor variant. This variant can be acquired after reaching Rep 5 and up. This armor variant shares its name with the saga stories of the old Norwegian kings. The word Heimskringla is derived from the two Old Norse words that make it up. Heims, meaning world, and Kringla, meaning twisted or encircling. Combined, it means the circle of the world. Written by the same man who wrote the prose Edda, Snorri Sturluson, the saga covers many stories of the kings of Norway and their lineage, all the way down to the 12th century. What's noteworthy about this armor variant, though, is that its design seems more regal than most of his others, as it has golden decals covering it, and the belt buckle piece has the face of a man that could represent a king of sorts, thus making Warlord a bit more dignified in his looks. Coming on up to Highlander for our number 7 spot is his Claim Soleil's weapon variant. This is labeled as an epic variant and can be obtained when your Highlander reaches Rep 5. This sword is akin to the Excalibur, as it too is a legendary weapon that has magical properties and can only be wielded by a chosen warrior. The Claim Soleis was said to have been part of the 4 treasures of the old Irish gods in the Tuatha De Danann. The origins may be Irish, but the sword comes up in Scottish myth as well, as there are a few stories that have the sword being wielded in a time of need. The sword's name literally means the shining sword, which the For Honor version here has a shiny white, gold, and blue detail that replicate that fact very well. Finishing up the Vikings on number 8 is Highlander's Morgan armor variant. This armor variant can be obtained at Rep 3 and onward. The Morgan armor variant comes from the Celtic goddess named Morgan, or the Morgan, also known as the Great Queen or Phantom Queen. She's considered to be the goddess of war, fate, and death. It's said that warriors would go into battle, and she would fly over them as a raven, and determine the victors and losers in a battle, not so different like the Norse Valkyries. It's also said that you would know you've been chosen to die in battle if you were to dream of her washing your bloody armor. This variant personally is my favorite with Highlander, just to be honest. Going now to the land of the rising sun for our number 9 spot, we have Nobushi's Yuki-onna's Embrace weapon variant. This variant was only available during the Frostwind Festival event back in late 2017. The name Yuki-onna takes its roots in Japanese folklore of a snow spirit that resides in snowy mountains or anywhere where snow is prevalent. It is said that a Yuki-onna is made when a woman dies in the snow and returns as a haunting spirit to forever travel with the snow and ice. The embrace part to the Yuki-onna's embrace is likely a reference to how it traps people with deceit. It's said that if a person were to be traveling through a blizzard, they may come across a Yuki-onna holding a child. She will tell you to take or hug the child, and if you do, you will soon find yourself being covered in snow and ice and soon die. Kind of horrific if you ask me. Finishing up our list with the samurai faction, with our number 10 spot is Orochi's Kusanagi weapon variant. This can be acquired once you've repped your Orochi to 3 and higher. The knights have Caliburn, the Vikings, the Claim Soleis, and the samurai have the legendary Kusanagi sword. The Kusanagi, however, is different, seeing as which it is actually a real weapon. Not a katana though, just wanted to mention that there. The weapon was created way back in the day before katanas were even being produced, so just to give you a heads up, this is not, a real representation of the sword, but whatever, it's fine. Anyway, a part of the Japanese 3 royal regalia, the Kusanagi sword is said to have come from the monstrous 8-headed snake Yamata no Orochi, when Susanoo, Japanese god of the sea and storms, gets the Orochi drunk from sake and cuts it up into pieces. As he does, he finds a sword in its tail, and it was originally called the Ama no Murakumo no Sorugi, or the Heavenly Sword of Gathering Clouds. Susanoo gave the sword to Amaterasu as an apology gift for an earlier transgression. The sword was then passed down to the Japanese royalty until later it was given to Prince Yamato, who used the sword to cut through a grass fire he was trapped in to reveal that the sword could control the wind, thus giving it its new name, Kusanagi no Sorugi, or the grass cutter's sword. Pretty coincidental that Orochi has the Kusanagi sword. That's using your brain, Ubisoft. And with that, there ends the video. What did you guys think of the video? Did you know all of these, or none of these, or did you know just a few of these? Comment below to tell me which ones you knew. And don't forget to like the video if you do, by the way. And if you guys like these, I might just make another one. If you want, you guys can subscribe and stay tuned for any future content that comes up. And as always, thanks for watching, guys, and play on.